by now, we all know that the job market for product managers in 2024 is going to be like nothing we experienced before. And you just want to have the best product management team out there. You want to thrive, you want to have the best colleagues, and you want to shape products that just make the world a better place. Well, how do you do it? This is the right place for you to learn how. Hello, leaguers. My name is Moliakasis, and I'm the founder and general manager of Product League, and we are here to support you in becoming the best product manager you can be. Product League is an international mentoring program for product managers by product managers in 30 countries around the world. And today it's about recruitment and team building and finding the best talent, product management talent for 2024. I hope that you're ready because we're going to talk about how to do things the right way, like product managers should do. How are we going to set KPIs? What is it that we should and should not include in the job description? And all the little things and the big things that make you and allow you to find the best people out there to join your team and ship the best product. So we're starting right now. I hope that you're ready. Let's start. Say hello to our speaker for today, Kimone Napier, founder and recruitment coach at The Higher Breakthrough. I'm unmuted. I'm not muted now. What's up?
Nothing much. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So excited to have you here with us today to talk about product management, recruitment the right way. 2024 is just around the corner and we have to be ready. And actually, we're going to be super ready with your help because this is a event series. This is going to be a super interesting one. This week, today, we're going to talk about hiring the right way. And next week, it's going to be even, I don't know if I can say even more interesting because everything is interesting about that. We're going to discuss how to do the applicant work the right way, how to have the standout job applications, not just, click and submit, but having the right applications, those that stand out and allow you to be called for the interviews that we're going to discuss today. So today, we're going to talk about this perspective of the hiring managers.
Yes.
Next week, we're going to talk about the perspective of the applicants, but I'm going to start this session here today with a challenge and asking you, why should both candidates and hiring managers should attend today's meeting? And why should everyone, hiring managers, job candidates, team managers alike, should join us for next week's session as well?
Yeah. So again, thank you so much for having me. I think this two-part series that we're doing is so crucial and pivotal for both project manager, who's our applicants, and for the hiring managers, because as an applicant, it's going to give you a unique advantage because you're actually going to see get an inside look into the competitive job market, get a deeper understanding as to like what you should be looking in job applications when you are in fact applying, how to make a better informed decision about the type of product manager role you want and the type of company you want to work for. And then for the hiring manager, it gives you a really good advantage because, we've been hearing it across industries, but specifically in a lot of technical roles and industries, people are like, I can't find great talent. They might have a turnover issue. And so all of what we're talking about is going to really put you at the forefront to really attract the type of talent that you need in project manager roles. And you're going to get some valuable insight from me, from a recruiter. I mean, personally, I've sat on both ends, right? Of course, I've been a recruiter, but I've also gone through the job process myself. So I have a lot of insight to drop in because a lot of things has actually changed within the past 1 to 2 years. I think the conversation is so pivotal and it's just going to help everybody really start 2024 with a bang.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. It's going to be super interesting. You are here, Kimone. I'm here. They're going to meet you and get to know you and your experience and insights and know-how in just a second. But before that, we also want to get to know the audience. So everyone, wherever it is that you watch us right now, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube, just go ahead and tell us in the comment section who you are, where you're from, what is your unique challenge. Because guess what? It's not just about Kimon sharing her expertise here with you through the session and through the slides and the talk. It's also about her giving you the best answers for your questions. So tell us, what is your question? What is your biggest struggle or the things that annoy you about finding the best product management talent out there? Because today, with the help of Kimon, you're going to know how to do it the right way for 2024. I think, Kimon, that we are ready. We are set to go. What do you say? Shall we
Mhm.
start?
I'm ready. Let's start.
Do that.
All right, everyone. So I hope everybody can see this and we're all good. But today is going to be part one of a two-part series that we are doing together. So I'm going to talk about successful talent acquisition and project management. Now, today, of course, I'm going to talk about it from the hiring manager perspective. But whether you're an applicant or hiring manager, you will get immense value from this session. So before we dive in, I just wanted to do a brief introduction of myself. So hi, everyone. My name is Kimone Napier. I'm the founder of Hire Breakthrough. I'm a hiring and recruitment strategist, and I help startups to take the breakdown out of their hiring breakthrough. So we help them with all things talent, strategy, and recruitment. Here are a number of places where I've spoken and been featured. So I'm excited to be here with you and share my expertise and even answer some of your questions to really help you in the talent acquisition process, specifically in this session for hiring managers. So I'm excited to jump in. Let's not waste any additional time. I'm just going to hop right in and get started. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to talk about is the importance of job description. Now, I have a question for everyone before we get started. So, for everyone, have you ever encountered any issues in the hiring process due to an unclear or ineffective job description? So, you could put yes, no, maybe you're not sure, but I would love to know. Just to know where we're at with the audience. I know me personally, I can say yes because I've done this for a living, but even before I niched into recruitment, I definitely saw a lot of unclear and ineffective job descriptions across a multitude of industries. But I've also seen it a lot in the product management industry, and you'd be surprised as to a number of reasons as to why so many job descriptions are ineffective, which causes the time to hire to be extremely long for technical roles like a product manager, and so let's just jump right in and talk about why this is so important because I want you to really understand this so you can get immense value. So the first thing is it's going to give very clear expectations. Now I know that might sound very straightforward, but you'll be surprised. And the reason that you want it to have clear expectations because that's how you're going to pull in the right applicant for your product management role. One of the biggest misconceptions with this role, specifically with product management, is what people will put out the job description and they'll expect, like, okay, I'm going to get the applicants. Product management is one of those roles that you could be a product manager in so many different industries. It could be in engineering. You could have a product management role that they want you to know some code. So it can vary as to what it is. So that's why you have to be extremely clear, especially in a role like this that is so highly technical, but it also has operational components. And so you want to be clear about the expectation because it's going to outline the role and the responsibilities. It's going to help you as the hiring manager to understand what it is that you really need for this role. So right, you want to do some level setting before you even put the job description out there, but it's going to help also the applicant to actually see if they're bringing the right skill set to the table for your specific product management role. So that's the first thing. The second thing is legal compliance. Now, this is a big one because you'd be surprised as to the crazy things that I see people put in job descriptions across all industries, but specifically in very technical roles. There's so many legal things that you need to be abreast of and you need to understand in the roles. But people are obviously thinking to themselves, okay, I need to find someone for the role. So sometimes they skip the legalities and they can make big no-no. So that could be things like listing really discriminatory factors, like the qualification, the skills, or the requirements, or using a lot of gender bias when it comes to legal compliance. I see that a lot in the product management role. So it's one of those things that you really need to pay attention to is the legal compliance component. The third thing is candidate attraction. Now you want your job description to really help you. This is to actually aid you. A lot of times as a hiring manager, you might think about it very one-sided, that it could just be, okay, this is just for me to actually find the candidate. This is for me to just get the role filled. But that's not the way for you to really think about it. You want to think about your job description as a marketing tool. This is going to help you to attract the best talent for your roles. So, right, you want to put in the effort up front with the job description so you can get the type of person that you want into the role. So, if it's written effectively, right, a job description is going to communicate the requirements of the position, but it's also going to highlight your company or your organization. You want someone to read this job description and feel like this is the job that they've been looking for their entire lives. And I guarantee you, this is not a misconception. I've seen it many times. A candidate who loves this job description or feels completely aligned to your company, your beliefs, the culture, and the responsibilities of the role will be so enthralled to actually apply for this role. And that's where you'll see people doing things like sending you messages to try to really get some more insight onto the role because they're excited about it. So if you write your job description the right way, it's going to attract the right candidates. And then the last thing I would talk about is scalability. Now, this is a big one because sometimes when it comes to hiring for a role, you're thinking about it like, okay, I have to fill the position. But think about this is that you're setting like the groundwork for how you're going to be looking for talent in the future. So if you haven't had a process, a formal process in terms of how you recruit talent or how you find the right candidates, this is going to help with your scalability. So if you're an organization and you're growing, a well-designed job description is going to support you in the future because you won't have to constantly reinvent the wheel. It's going to help you to quickly bring and identify gaps in the workplace. It's going to help you really understand the specific skill sets that you need, and it's going to help you to be able to look for talent easier in the future. So for example, if you have a company and you're constantly looking for product managers, or maybe it's one of the biggest roles or one of the roles that you have a multitude of roles in your company, you'll have this job description that you could use in the future. Now, of course, not everyone is all made equal. You could need a product manager in different areas, but at the same time, if you've created a job description that is well suited, it works, right? Because we're going to be testing our metrics here. It works. Then what you can do is use it as a baseline to start in the future. So those are the 4 areas that I would say is going to really ground in and understand the importance of job descriptions when it comes to talent acquisition specific for product managers. All right, so just to close here, I wanted to just say job descriptions are essential tools in talent acquisition. So I think I talked about that, but I want you to really understand that it's going to help you to attract the right talent, but it's going to ensure that the people that you attract and the people that you hire are a good fit for your company and organization's needs and culture, right? Because if they're not a good fit, it won't necessarily work. And I don't mean only with culture, but I mean in terms of experience, education, right? Sometimes job descriptions can be so vague. So when somebody starts in a role, it's kind of like they're a deer in the headlights. Or maybe you as the hiring manager, you didn't actually explain what it is that you needed in an applicant in the best way possible. And so it's confusion on both sides. We want to avoid that. And so making sure that your job description is really clear, concise, it's legally compliant, it's a marketing tool to attract talent, and that it's going to help you scale in the future and to hire faster are 4 components that are highly important for you to actually make this work so you can actually hire the right people and attract the right people for your roles. All right, so the next thing I wanted to talk about are common challenges. So I want to ask everybody in the audience, what do you think is the most common challenge when creating job descriptions? So I know a lot of you are hiring managers. I would love to hear your take on what you think is the most common challenge. And I will tell you what's the number one challenge when it comes to specifically product managers and when they are recruiting. So Don't be shy. Drop in the chat what you would think is the challenge, because I'm just excited to actually see this. So, okay, I'm looking here. This is so interesting. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next slide, but I'm going to start with the most common challenge, and that is unrealistic expectations. Now, I'm going to give you an example of this later on, but that is one of the most common challenges when it comes to hiring product managers. I'm going to explain to you as to why. The product manager role is a very unique role. On an operation standpoint, right? That might be a project manager. When it comes to tech, it's product managers. And the reason is because it's so vast. Like this role, you can have a product manager across all industries. The requirements in terms of experience could vary, depend on the type of products that you manage. So, are you managing um, products at an engineering company? Or is it that you're going to be managing a product that has an app or a SaaS component to it? It could look so different. And because of that, sometimes the expectations are not realistic. And that could be in terms of qualifications, skills, or experience. And it could really honestly discourage applicants. So I mean, think about it. If you look at the job description, and you're just reading through and it's just words and words and words and words, and you're like, okay, what is it that they're truly looking for? Because I've heard in this job description that they're looking for 12 of these components, and it's just not realistic. Or sometimes you'll see things and they'll be asking for like 12 years of experience as a product manager, but the salary is not matching up to the level of experience. So as a hiring manager, you need to really get realistic as to what it is that you're looking for, because if you're not realistic, it's going to extend the time to fill. And that's what we don't want. It can also lead to high turnover rates. So if your new hires can't meet, the requirements for the role because they're so unrealistic, it's going to just cause them to leave or look for another role. And that is what we don't want, because why? Every time you have to go through the hiring process, it costs money. So from the hiring manager perspective, right, we always set a budget. If you are hiring, it costs money every single time you go through the process. So why would you want to spend more money if you didn't need to? So this is why you want to invest some time in the process to begin with, to support you with that. The next thing is the overemphasis on technical skills. I cannot stress this more, because product manager is a technical role, right? In the sense that it usually supporting like the engineering teams, people who code, all that kind of stuff. There could just be an overemphasis on the skill. So I've seen job descriptions where, of course, it's a product manager role, but at the same time, the skills that they're wanting is really more like applicable to somebody who codes, or it's more applicable to an engineer. You'd be surprised as to what I've been seeing. And specifically, I've been seeing an uptick in this for the past, I would say, year and a half or so, just because the job market is changing. So while technical skills are very important in all positions, but specifically to product managers, you can't neglect soft skills, or you can't neglect somebody who is aligned with your values or your culture. These are some of the things that I've seen people make mistakes. So sometimes when you look at a project manager job description, it's just all technical. It doesn't tell a story or paint a good picture of what it's like to work there or the teams. And so you can result in having applicants or new hires who have this technical skills, but they're going to struggle to actually integrate into a culture or work really effectively with a team, which is very crucial in a product manager role, right? You're going to be working with so many different people. And so you have to make sure that the person that you're hiring is able to do that. So that's the second thing. The third thing is using bias and discriminatory language. Now, I'm sure nobody is surprised by this, but because the product manager field can be so male focused, in terms of it's usually a very male dominated role, right? When we're looking at the statistics between all different types of people, those who identify as male tend to dominate the product manager space. And so it leads people to often write job descriptions with a very male focused lens. And the reason why this is a bad thing is that it could completely turn off somebody who's an amazing fit for this role who might not identify as a male. So you don't want to use biased language, or you don't want to use any language or requirements that is going to discriminate against certain groups of people. So you don't want to use gender specific terms. You don't want to list anything that's unnecessary or that can deter any candidate or applicant who comes from a very diverse background to actually apply for the role. And of course, this can lead to potential legal issues. So please avoid that. That's another challenge that I've seen specifically when it comes to hiring product managers. The fourth thing is inconsistent format. And when I say format, I'm talking about language and just how the job description is written. So sometimes when I've seen job descriptions, particularly for very technical roles or role that has an underlying tech area, what I've constantly seen is that it looks like somebody just threw up all over the job description. And we don't want that. Sometimes, you look at them and it just gives you an immediate headache because it just looks like words. And it's like if you're looking at a job description and it's written that way, it makes it so hard for you to focus on the core components of a job description. So you want to make sure that you're using a clear and concise format when you're writing them, because it's going to create confusion for candidates, and it can cause them to actually compare your job description with others, and you can lose out on great talent. So you want to have a standardized format for your job description because it's going to make it clear and transparent. So in terms of sharing the story, like what's the introduction, talking about the company, the responsibilities, the education, the experience, but you want to make sure that it's formatted correctly, that it makes it easy to read, right? You want it to be accessible. So some people cannot look at certain colors and certain fonts. So you want to make sure, right, that your branding as a company is helping you when you're writing the job description. And usually at a company, like, there's somebody who specializes in that can actually help you. So make sure you contact that person if you're not sure. So that's the fourth thing, is inconsistent formatting. Right. The fifth thing now is neglecting your company culture. I can't stress this enough. Sometimes when you look at job descriptions, they get straight to the point, which is not a bad thing, right? For you to get straight to the point. But you need to tell a story. You have to make someone excited to actually work for this company, because it's one of the most competitive roles, right? A lot of companies are hiring product managers. It's very competitive role. And so if you want the best of the best talent, right, they usually have choices when it comes to the roles that they're picking. So they might have a couple of offers on the table, and you might lose out on somebody if you don't make them feel a sense of belonging to the company that you work for. So you want to incorporate information about your company's values. You want to incorporate information about your vision, like where is this company going? Why is this product that they're going to be managing so important to the company at this pivotal time? Also, you want to talk to them about their overall vision as well. Like, what's the big vision? What do you want to accomplish in the next 5, 10, 15 years? All that information is really good to really incorporate a sense of belonging and helping the applicant to kind of navigate company culture before they even meet you. You want them to have a sense of what it's like to work there before they even move on in the process, because candidates want to work for companies or organizations that align with their personal values and principles, right? That has been a big change over the job process or the talent acquisition process, I would say, for the last 4 to 5 years. And so you want to stay ahead of the curve and make sure that your job descriptions are, in fact, really helping them to understand your company culture and to see themselves working there. All right, so now what I want to do is give you some real life examples about this. And this is going to actually help you to see some actual job descriptions that I've seen in the product management space. And I want you to understand as to why it's so important for you to understand some of the things that you need to do, because you don't want to make these mistakes. All right, so the first one. Now, I hope this is easy for everyone to see. But what I will do is that I can, let me see if I can zoom in a little bit here. So this specific position is, of course, I think this one is a growth product manager. And so one thing with this role, if you look at it, is that I've highlighted some components there. So I'll read it to you if you're having any difficulty looking at this. So it's a growth product manager job. The salary for this position is $65,000. Now, two things that I noticed the first time that I looked at this, right? If you look at the salary, it's $65,000. They're asking for a growth product manager. But if you look at the experience, they're asking for a master's degree. They're asking for 10 years of experience in consumer facing product management, meaning building, launching, optimizing successful online e commerce and mobile platform products. And their preferred knowledge is actually a PhD in a quantitative field. So like computer science, business, economics, finance, math. Now I'm looking at the comments and I'm laughing because somebody just said a salary of 65,000 in New York City. Yes. And this was actually a live job. So of course, what this means is unrealistic job demands. You have to be realistic about it. And you as the hiring manager, sometimes I know might be a little bit blurry, which is why I was reading it to you, but I know sometimes your higher ups or the finance person might say to you like, okay, this is the budget for the role. As the hiring manager, you need to, sometimes you're going to need to push back on that, and it might be very uncomfortable, but this is what you need to do, or you're going to find yourself constantly rehiring for the same role over and over again. I mean, $65,000 in New York City is not really feasible, especially if you're looking for somebody who has a master's degree and 10 years of experience. It's just not something that's feasible. So you want to make sure that the job demands, right, the requirements of the job is actually realistic with what it is that you're hiring. Personally, if you're looking at a product manager that you want them to have at least 10 years of experience and a master's degree, like you have to be looking well over six figures. If you're going to think about a rate or some compensation, you have to also make sure that you're coming with a really good benefits package. And of course, in the year of 2023, we're dealing with things like inflation. So you have to make sure you're thinking about all of these things before you're marketing a role. And, recently there's been an uptick of bad job descriptions just going completely viral, whether it's of course on social media, but like places like Twitter, Threads, LinkedIn and things like that. And so you don't want your job description to just go up in smokes like that. So make sure that you're realistic with the job demands of the roles that you are putting out there. So I use this example because I want you to understand like how it looks from an applicant perspective. Okay. So this is the second one here. So this is for a product manager in engineering. If it's blurry, like I said, I'm going to read some of the key components of this information for you. So, okay. So this is a product manager for engineering. The location is in New York. It's a full-time role. The salary is negotiable. And so where I highlighted, where you see the yellow here, those are the responsibilities. And so as you can see, it's 2 pages basically of responsibilities. And so from a product manager standpoint, or just from any applicant, this is such a long list of responsibilities. And what I want to stress to you is you need to get to the point. What this shows me is that the person who wrote this job description is not clear as to what they want this person to do when they start the role. There's no reason why the list of responsibilities need to be this long. I'm not saying that it can't be lengthy, but it doesn't need to be almost 2 pages. I mean, if you look at it, that's basically all it is. It's the responsibilities. And so from an applicant standpoint, all this screams is like burnout. I'm going to jump into this role and they're just going to drop everything and anything on me. I'll read you a couple of these so you can kind of get a sense. So the first one, of course, it says develop and own the product vision, strategy, and roadmap, aligning it with the company's goals, ensuring clear communication of the vision to all stakeholders, right? Some of them is like stay up to date with industry trends and emerging technologies, and launch new features, capabilities, drive adoption. So if you look at this, when I read the responsibilities in depth of this job description, it is showing, of course, the technical aspect, but it's showing operationals, it's showing strategy, it's showing a lot of these things, which of course are important to the product manager role. But the responsibilities of the length is just way too long. You need to really get concise about what it is that you need, because you want this person to apply to this and get a sense as to what it is that they're going to do from this job description. I am not I am not sure. Even me, who I do this for a living, I'm not sure what this person wants. I see engineering in here, but I see some operations in here, some project manager. It's just all over the place. So please, as an example, don't do this. Be a little bit more clear and concise in your job descriptions. Let me see here. Okay. So I have another example for you, and this is a growth product manager. So for this one, the company, of course, I made this one confidential because there's a couple of like legal things with this one. So of course, it's a role in New York. This was actually posted very recently in the month of September, and so there are a couple of things here. The first thing that if you notice here, the first thing it starts with is qualifications. So it doesn't tell you anything about the company whatsoever. And it was literally written in that way. It just jumps straight into like, this is the qualifications, the requirements, and the whole nine yards. So I'm reading through it. I'm reading through it. And then if you look on the second page over here for requirements, it says we require you to work through lunch each day, but don't worry, the company caters it. Now, this, whoever wrote this probably thought that they were being a bit environment, but legally you cannot write this. You can't tell people that they can't basically take their lunch. It's like saying like, yeah, we'll have lunch, but we're going to provide the lunch, but you're going to work through your lunch. You never want to write anything like that in a job description. And I want to also ask everybody, so as you can see, this job was posted in September of this year in 2023. I want to see if you notice one of the this is a big legal no-no as of September in New York. So if you know the answer, put it in the comments, because I'm just curious to see like if any of the hiring managers actually picked up on this. So I'm gonna give you about like 10 seconds to see if anybody like actually picked it up. Because of course I did, because I do this for a living, but it's a core component. So I didn't see anybody put anything in the comments. So I'm just going to share. So what this job actually doesn't have, there's no salary on this. And this is actually a good thing for all of you hiring managers and even applicants to be aware of. So there are states that have pay transparency. New York is one of those states. In fact, it just passed in New York in September. And there are at least, I believe, 10 to 15 other states that have pay transparency as a law, or it's about to pass very soon. So what that means is that that you need to have the salary on the job description or even a range. Now, you might be thinking like, okay, well, what if the role is remote? It doesn't matter, because if it's remote and the position lands into one of these states that have it, technically it's a violation. Now, the fines for this actually vary from state to state. So I've seen anything as low as like $15, but I've seen it as high as into like the four-figure range. So please make sure you're doing your research. If you don't have a recruiter or a HR person to consult with about like some of the legal no-nos about job descriptions, or specifically about pay transparency, please make sure you do your research or contact them to actually help you with this. But you need to have the salary on this job description. And I'm reading the comments, working through lunch. That's some rocket surgeon, great compliance right there. Yes. So you'd be surprised as to some of the things that you see. So these are some of the legal requirements that I've been seeing on job description. And there's been actually an uptick of this, I would say, this entire year. I don't know the reason for that, but you want to make sure that you're legally compliant when you're writing them. All right, so I want to jump in and I want to talk about best practices when it comes to job description. So now we talked about things like, I gave you some examples. I talked to you about like the importance of it. So I want you to understand some of the best practices when you are writing your job description. So we talked about this one, but I want to reiterate it using clear and concise language. So don't use anything like jargon or some complex terminology, because you don't want to confuse the applicant. So sometimes, and this is the problem, sometimes the people who are writing the job descriptions are extremely technical. Sometimes it's literally a CTO or one of the co-founders that is doing all the tech, and they're like, I need a product manager, and they're writing it, but they're writing it in such a high level technical format that sometimes it just doesn't even make sense to the applicant. So you want to make sure you're using really clear and straightforward language, because otherwise it's just not going to come across the way you want it to. So make sure you're not using things like product manager rock star. Like it already, like, hearing that, and I best believe I've seen it on job descriptions, it already gives a negative connotation to the role. And so usually, like, I've heard it from applicants, they'll see jobs like that, they'll immediately roll their eyes and just be like, okay, here we go. So please don't use any of that kind of jargon with your roles. The second thing is you want to use descriptive job description. So you want to write it from a way that it's going to reflect the role's responsibilities. So you don't want to use um like a really generic title. So for example, the example that I showed you where it was a product manager and they put in parentheses engineering. Now, that is, I actually really like that because it already gives a candidate insight as to the type of product manager that specific company needs without them getting to the job description. Why is that important? Because it just reduces the time that you're wasting. You don't want people to just apply to the role and they don't have any concept as to the type of product manager that you need. So make sure that you're using really descriptive words and information in your job description, because you want to make sure that the candidate realizes if they're even suitable for the position. And you just don't want to get down through the hiring process and realize that somebody's not a fit and you just wasted how many weeks on engaging with them. I'm reading the comments. Brendan says, I'm a big proponent of including salary range in every single job posting, regardless of pay transparency laws. Absolutely. And you know the reason as to why I'm a big proponent of that? It saves time. It is very inclusive, because I just remember, I don't know about the audience, but I remember back when you used to apply to a job and it's kind of like it would go in a black hole, and then they'll ask you what's the salary you're looking for, and then you put the range, and then sometimes you just wouldn't hear back. It just removes all of that. So I agree, Brendan. I am a big proponent of pay transparency as well. All right, so the next thing is inclusive language. So of course we want to make sure that we're inclusive and diverse, as a company, as an organization, but you want to do it the same thing in your job description. So you don't want to use any language that's going to be biased or discriminatory. So I'll give you an example. One time I was working with an organization and they put out a job description, and they put out this job description and they specifically said, I'm looking for a Hispanic female in this role. It literally said that on the job description. And this is a pretty big company. Um, so you don't want to do things like that. Number reason as to why, it's just not inclusive. So that's the first reason. The second thing is, like, why would you even do that? Because you don't want to get a loss. You don't want to be sued. This literally violates the equal employment opportunity laws that we have in this country. And usually it happens across all countries. So here in the US, in the UK, Canada, all over has laws in place to protect us from these things. So you don't want to do anything like that, because now when you get a fine from the EEO, see, that's a big violation. That is usually thousands or thousands of dollars. So you don't want to do something that is like the smallest thing, because that was not even pertinent to the job description. There's no reason as to why that needed to be in there. But by putting in there, this person end up getting a lawsuit. I'd say pay transfer doesn't mean salary ranges from 5,000 to 1.42 mil. And this is so funny that you say that, because I've seen that. And it's so sad that I've actually seen it. I recently saw a pay range that was like 40,000 to like 240,000. And I'm just like, really? Why? So I completely agree. And we just don't want to do that. Let's be very clear about what it is. You want to just be clear and upfront because you wanted to also save your time and save applicants time. Job hunting for applicants is hard. It takes time for people to find the jobs that they want. So you want to make sure that you're doing everything that you can in order to make the process easier for you and them. All right. So the fourth thing is that making sure that you have concise job requirements. So I gave you some good examples of what you should not do, but making sure that the job requirements that you're listing is actually accurate. I'm not saying you have to list out every single job requirement, but you want to summarize it so they know, like, okay, this is what they do. So you want to outline the key responsibilities and the tasks associated for that role. Make sure you're using things like if it's a numbered list or bullet points, so you make it accessible and easy to read. One thing that I absolutely cannot stand with job description is when it just looks like words, words, words. You don't see any white space or anything like that. This is why we have formatting. This is why we have the space bar and the return bar on your MacBook, is so we can space things out so it makes it easier to read. And you want to make sure that you're distinguishing between what is needed for the role, like actually needed, and what are nice to have qualifications. Now, the first job description I showed you definitely had that. It just that it was unrealistic. The must have was a master's degree, and the nice to have was a PhD for a 65K product manager role. That's completely unrealistic. So you want to make sure that it's realistic, but you're listing it out that way so it helps applicants to actually see, like, if they have the skills, the experience, the education that they need to bring to this role and be successful in it. The next thing is that you want to make sure that it has a standardized format. So remember when I talked about scalability, if you don't have any set recruitment strategy or talent acquisition strategy in your roles, if you have a standardized format and you don't maybe you don't even have one yet, create this standardized format. And usually, as a hiring manager for most product manager roles, you might have been a product manager at some point. So write it from this, even from the sense of point, like when you were a product manager, what would you have liked to see? Like, what is the information that would have been crucial for you to know? And I'm not saying to air out dirty laundry on the job description, but what's the important information that you needed to know about this job and this company before you even engaged with them? Think about it from that. It makes it so much easier for you to write. And if you create this format for your job description, like I said, it's going to help you with scalability because it's rinse and repeat. You're going to have a job description you can pull from whenever you have to hire, whether it's for a product manager role or not. In the future, you have a starting point. You're going to have a great introduction that's going to talk about your company and why it's so amazing to work there and why this role is so crucial. So you're going to have information that you could use over and over again, but it's just going to make it easier for candidates to compare roles. And it's going to just make it easier for you to manage your job description and update it in the future. So make sure you have a standardized format. The next thing is that I just talked about, that is a compelling introduction. So you want to tell a story. This is like one of the biggest things that I see a lot of product manager roles miss. It's like you saw, like the last job description that I share in the real life case study, is it just jumps straight into the requirements and the qualification. They want to know why they should work with you. Remember, you are, of course, looking for qualified and top talent, but the talent is actually also looking at you to even see if you're worth their time. So it goes both ways. Don't necessarily think like, okay, people are looking for roles, so I could just put anything out there. That's not the case. It hasn't been the case for quite some time now. So you want to make sure that you're compelling people to want to apply. I personally believe you should have this at the top of the job description because it's going to give them the story and make them want to read more. So that's a little nugget for you, is to tell them where you're going, tell them about the values, tell them about why this role is so pertinent to your organization or company. And that's going to actually really help more applicants, and specifically qualified applicants, to actually apply for your roles. All right, realistic expectations. So I talked about this one, but you want to ensure that the requirements that you have in your roles are realistic. So making sure that the actual years of experience. Sometimes I see people put on product manager roles like, 10 years of experience when it really should be like 2 or 3 years. So, and there's nothing wrong with saying that. So, if you have so much years of experience, I'm talking to the applicants right now, but if you have a ton of years of experience in product management and you're looking at the roles and you're looking at the salaries and you're just like, this is not a match, like 9 times out of 10, these applicants are going to move on. So making sure that the salary is realistic, the benefits are realistic as well, right? Because sometimes companies offer nothing. And like I said, 2023 has been a year of inflation for most countries. So if you think about it from that standpoint, making sure all those things are realistic, making sure it's realistic from the educational and experience standpoint. Some of the product manager roles are very entry level, but that they're still asking for 6-7 years of experience, and it's like, why? It's like, and then you wonder why it takes so long to find talent. So this is a good way to differentiate between the must-haves and the nice-haves. Must-haves, if it's like an entry-level role, you might say like, okay, somewhere between 1 to 3 years of experience in product manager. Nice to have, maybe you say something like 5 years or something. Like this is how we need to start thinking, because we're trying to save time here so you can find great talent, and so applicants, you can get the jobs that you really really want. The next one is visual elements. So this is a new thing that I've seen in everything when it comes to job descriptions, but I've been seeing this for about 2 to 3 years. Is having some visual component on the job description. So it could be as simple as having the company logo, but also what I've seen is having some video even on your job description. Now, of course, it depends on where you're sharing the job description and everything like that. But even I've seen a couple of founders actually put an intro video on the job description, and it actually just makes it stand out even more. Why? Because most people aren't even doing that. They're not taking the time to do it. So if you are using some type of visual component to your job description, it actually makes it more likable. So you can show things like images of the workplace, videos like I talked about, to showcase the workplace, your team, your company culture. And so it makes it easier. I'm going to read this comment. I agree with a compelling introduction, especially if the company isn't a big brand. I personally require the ability to fall in love with the problem. Why would I bring my best self to work if the problem is not compelling to me? 100%. And you're right. If you're not a big brand, if you're a small company, it just makes it, all of the stuff that I'm sharing is even more crucial, because a lot of companies, they're attracting applicants based off a name, but they have crappy job descriptions. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but if you're a small company, you don't have that recognition and exposure yet, it's even more crucial. So I 100% agree with that statement. All right. So let us talk about key performance indicators, KPI. So, like from the hiring manager perspective, let's talk about some things that you want to definitely measure in the process. Now, there's so many KPIs that you can measure, but I tried to make this extremely straightforward. So, the first one is time to hire. You want to have the fastest time to hire as possible, but of course, time to hire, actually hiring the right candidate for the role. So, it's going to expedite the hiring process. It's going to help you as a hiring manager to really identify suitable candidates more quickly, and it's going to reduce the time it takes to fill vacant positions. So you want to actually measure this. So when you put out the job description, and honestly, even you could actually start a little bit before that when you're actually crafting it. Like, how long is it taking you to craft the job description? How long is it taking to get approved by senior leadership in your organization? And then when you put out the job description, how long is it taking you to actually get to the initial interview, maybe a second interview, and that, I don't know if you're going to do some type of test project or anything like that, all the way up to the point where this candidate actually signs. You want to measure how long it's going to actually take, because it'll help you to know in the future, like, okay, I need to give myself a legroom of this amount of time. So for example, if you put out a product manager role and you're realizing, okay, it's been 2 months, I'm not getting a good sense of, not a good sense, but I'm not getting quality applicants for the roles. And I'm not even getting a lot of applications. It's a sign that you're going to need to pivot your strategy, whether it's where you're sharing the roles, or it could just be a problem with the job description itself. but it's insight. You need this data in order to make better informed decisions to assist you with the hiring process. And so on the flip side, let's say for example, you just hired somebody. It took you 3 months to find this product manager and everything is going well. Now you know in the future if you're to hire for this role again, or maybe any product manager role within your organization, give yourself a 3 month window in order to find the applicant, maybe even more wiggle room. So this is one of the key metrics that's important for you to actually measure when it comes to hiring. The second thing is, I alluded to this, but candidate quality. So a well-crafted job description is going to attract candidates who are a strong fit for the role, but it's also going to attract them when there's a clear understanding. So if you're realizing that you've had this job description out and you're looking at the candidates and the quality is extremely low, something is wrong with the process. So it could be, I said it before, but it could be that you're not looking in the right places for talent. So a lot of times, as startup companies or companies that hire product managers, they tend to look within their own networks. But guess what? If you're a startup, technically your network is probably more people in startups, and startups are technically looking for product managers. So you're just all competing for the same for the same talent, which is not a bad thing. It's part of the process. So of course share with your networks, but you got to get creative about the places that you're looking for people. Because it can't just be LinkedIn and Indeed. Like, and this is like everyone's goes to. It's like, I'm hiring, I'm gonna put it on LinkedIn and Indeed. And of course that might work, but if you're having a particularly hard time, you're gonna have to get a little bit more creative. And so it all affects the improved candidate quality. You want to make sure you're tracking the right one. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that maybe a problem with your job description. Um, it may be that, of course, you're just talking about everything too technical. Remember what I said, people want to feel a sense of belonging to the roles. That's how you're going to attract great candidates for the role. At least one of the things that's going to help you. So those are two nuggets to help you to attract better candidates. The third thing is the cost per hire. This is a big one because people underestimate the cost per hire. So you have to think about, like, okay, how much is it going to be for me to run advertisements? How much is it going to be for me to hire a recruiter? How much is it going to cost to put it on job boards, to maybe attend some type of like university program where you can come and engage with talent there. You want to measure the components because you need to track how much it's going to actually cost. And usually people underestimate the cost because some people will think to themselves like, okay, I'm going to find this talent in like a month. And sometimes it takes way longer than that to actually find good talent. So you want to make sure you're hiring early, but you're also measuring the cost. It's going to help you to give yourself more time, which is going to help you reduce the turnover. It's going to help you to save more money too. If you plan and like, okay, you can make a spreadsheet and say like, these are all the things that I'm going to utilize for this hiring campaign, because it's like a marketing campaign. And this is the amount of money that I'm going to need for this specific hire. It's going to make it easier. I guarantee you, if you need to get it approved by senior leadership, the fact that you actually map this out makes it very easy, especially if you're doing it yourself and you don't have a recruitment team to support you. This is going to help you. All right. And then the last one is the retention rate. You want to make sure that you're measuring how long the person is staying. So if once you hire them, are they staying with your company or organization? And if they're not, what's the reason? Was it the fact that maybe the requirements for the role wasn't realistic with what it is that they were actually doing in the day to day? Maybe it's like one of the examples I showed you, the salary was not livable. So they need to make more money. And so they're leaving the role. All these things are important, but it's one of the things that you need to really look at is your retention rate. All right, and I'm going to wrap this up really quickly because I want to make sure we have time for Q&A. So I want to talk about some of the benefits. So the benefits of all of this is you want to get an increase in qualified applicants. You want to increase the fill rate, right? So you want to make sure that you're finding the person. It's not just a dead job description that's just sitting there. You're not finding the qualified applicant. You want to get an improvement in the applicant screening. So are you actually, screening them in the best way possible? Is it actually supporting you and the whole 9 yards? Candidate self-selection. You want them to look at the job description and select, like, this is the job for me. I know I'm going to get this role. Maybe they won't, but you want them to feel that they're going to get this role and the whole 9 yards. Saving more money. This is why I said it's important for you to measure the cost when it comes to hiring, and you want to have improved onboarding and company belonging. So that's also a big thing. You don't, this person is excited, and then the onboarding experience sucks. So you want to make sure that that your onboarding experience is amazing and it's going to instill a sense of belonging for them and the company. And so that's a benefit to this entire process. All right, so this is all I had. One ask that I have from all of you is to just give me feedback. I just would love feedback on this session. So you can scan this QR code, or you can go to the link below, talk.ac/Kimone Napier, and just enter the code breakthrough. Because I would love your feedback, and I would love any comments from you. So this is what I had here, and now we made some time for Q&A. So Mariah?
I'm here. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
That was a fascinating one. Thank you so much. Before we're going into the answers to the questions that were submitted by the audience, I want to say a few words because you mentioned some brilliant stuff here. One of your last points was about the cost for the hiring. And you mentioned spot on things, and I want to highlight a few more. There is also the cost of the time, because people are going to work on that. It's not just about posting on different job boards. This is the easy part, like money wise. It's also about the fact that brilliant people are using their time for that. So as product managers should include everything when they put a price tag on a product, we should do the same thing when we are hiring. Another thing to keep in mind is the opportunity cost, because when we as hiring managers putting our minds, hearts, everything that we do into finding the best talent, and we should put the best people on that mission because it's a very important one, it means that we are not doing other things. It means that we have less time to mentor our team. We have less time for meeting with clients and users. It means less time for everything else. So we have to keep that in mind, because that goes to the retention rate that you mentioned.
Yes.
When we don't calculate and operate the best way within the hiring process, and we don't hire the best talent, or we do find the best talent, but we don't make them stay with us long, and the retention rate is low, it means that everything that we just invested goes to waste. All the different costs that we mentioned. So brilliant points on this one. Thank you so much for putting it in, because we are here to do things the right way, as product managers should do. So the same way that you are putting the numbers into understanding the price tag on a product and what should you actually charge for it, the same way it goes into understanding what is the actual meaning, the actual cost for your company, looking for the right talent and making sure that they will stay with you. So thank you so much for all these points. We have really great questions from the audience. We're going to go one by one. We have a few comments. We have a few questions. A really important point by a LinkedIn user of ours, a viewer, is that whenever we do things that require, like in a video and other things, the visual aspect that you mentioned, we have to think about everyone, because as you said, we want to be inclusive, right? Yes. And we may find brilliant, amazing, passionate product managers out there with not the best eyesight, right? So we have to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to understand actually consume the messages that we convey. Everyone in the audience just love your point about the paycheck. I saw the audience raving here, which is a really good. And Steve here with a really good point is that I'm now a candidate, but I was on the hiring manager end as well. I sat in that seat. And what annoys me most is the fact that it's so generic. The description of what one is going to do at the company is so generic. And actually, in real life, product management is a lot of things.
It
You,
is. Yes.
yeah, yeah. So I would love for you to touch a little bit upon this one. How do you advise hiring managers or everyone else who is involved in the hiring process, crafting the requirements, everyone around that, to better communicate
Hmm.
the things, the exact values, or something close to that enough that they are looking for?
Yeah, this is a really great question. I'm glad it
Yeah.
was asked. So I would say, so the first thing that I would share with this is, so let's say for example, if it's a type of product manager role, I think that's like the one of the biggest thing that I see a lot of people get stuck on. And so if you're the hiring manager, and it could be because I've had clients that had this issue, is that this product manager is going to actually be managing so many different types of products, and it requires different skill sets, but they might not have the budget to hire many a number of product managers to do this. So they're hiring maybe one or two along all these lines of products. So that's a common issue. So what I would stress to you is to get clear on the products that you're managing, right? So if you're seeing a consistent theme, maybe this is going to be a marketing product, maybe this is going to be a SaaS product, to actually talk about that and be clear about it. Don't just write it generic, like I'm looking for a product manager. Be actually upfront about what it is that they're actually going to be managing from a product perspective. Because if you're not, it's kind of like they're starting the role as a deer in headlights. They just don't know. They just have no idea as to like what they need to bring to the table. And it could be a reason why people are not applying to your role, because they just don't understand as to what they need to have and bring to the table in order to be successful
Yeah.
in the roles. And for an applicant, if you're looking for a product manager role and you're struggling because you're seeing so many generic roles out there, one thing that I would do now, if the job description says do not contact the recruiter for this, then of course don't do that, because you can actually, like, remove yourself from the process by breaking their rules. But if it's not there, I say fair game. And there's nothing wrong with you actually messaging the recruiter or whoever's hiring for the role and asking them. It's like you're doing that initial step to like even push you to the forefront. It's like asking them like, hey, I read over the job description. I'm actually pretty interested in this role. Could you give me a good descriptive as to the type of products that I'll be managing for this role? And you'd be surprised how something as simple as that could actually get your foot into the door. So a real good tip for you.
Absolutely. I love that. And we have another comment here from the audience saying the same exact thing. Tell me what you want. Tell me what is the thing that you're looking for. I love that. And I think that actually going back to one of the things you mentioned before about the difference between a known brand and new companies
Yes.
where the brand is less known, I actually think that both and everyone in the middle should make sure that they communicate what is it that they do and what is it that the candidate or the hired one that will actually do, because this is something that I see so often in big recognizable companies. When like you hear Google or Meta or whatever it is, and people have in mind like they are going to run the company, and then you find out that this is like far from being true. And 2 months into it, they're all like just not happy with their work. It's not they're burned out, but just they don't enjoy it anymore because
Yeah.
they had a specific vision, because what the company is promoting about itself, that may not be the thing that they are actually going to work on. Big companies and small companies alike usually have different aspects of product management
Yes.
into the product, sometimes even different products in that. Make sure, everyone in the audience, please, this is a really important one. Make sure that you talk about the product, as Kimon said, about the different domains, the little things about that, and also mention how much authority will this person have.
Yes.
Because if someone think that they're going to manage a team and then they find out they won because there is no budget for that, so it's really nice that you call that group product manager, but there is actually no group for them to manage,
Exactly.
which is like a little bit annoying, let's say this way. Okay, so make sure that you emphasize on the accountability, responsibility, aspect of management, all the things that allow someone to listen to you, or better, even read a description even before they listen to you, and kind of like paint paint or illustration of how the day will look like when they will spend some time with you at the office.
Exactly. And this is the thing with that comment that we were just looking at. I would honestly stress that a lot of companies, they're not clear. This is not even just for product managers. This is just across the board. They're just not clear about what they're hiring for, but specific for like roles like product manager or really technical roles. Like a lot of the people hiring for the roles are seeing the role as like the product manager in the world of tech. I view it as people look at that role like you're going to save me. I'm the savior when it comes to the product and tech. And because of that, that's why you see people are so quick to just hire them without just doing any of the groundwork to get clear on, like you said, the domains, what it is that they're going to be doing in their day to day. And so hire managers, get really clear on that, because it's going to just help you save a lot of time. It's going to help you, it's going to save your suffering too, because I know people struggling out here to find really good talent, but sometimes it's doing some of this groundwork to actually help you accelerate further and faster with hiring product managers.
Absolutely. And Kimon, I love how sync we are. And you actually read my mind, because I was just about to put on the screen this question by another LinkedIn user. He's asking, or they are asking, is there also an issue with overemphasizing technical skills in technical product management job descriptions? I will give my 2 cents, and then we'll get the whole buck from you. My 2 cents on this one is that you should remember that we are product managers. That means that it's not just about the product, it's also about the manager. So it's always about the emotional aspects, the soft skills, as much as it goes into the technical aspect, even if this is a technical product manager position. These are my 2 cents, but the whole buck comes from you.
No, I absolutely agree, and that's why I kept stressing that, overemphasizing technical skills, because it falls within tech, but it's not only a tech role. There's operational qualities of a product manager, which is like managing people. And if you don't like to do any of that, then you're going to find it very hard to actually be successful in the jobs. For hiring managers, if you stress so much on the technical, you could end up hiring somebody that has no people skills whatsoever, and that is pertinent to this role, because this person is going to be working alongside all different types of teams: marketing, engineering, sales, all these different people. So if you don't like people, or you don't know how to interact with people, this person won't be successful in the role. And what it'll cause is a turnover issue. It'll cause your cost to hire to go up higher, and it's just going to cost you to waste more time, because you're going to have to try to refill this role again. It just wasted your time and money.
So true. And I think, if I want to build on everything that you mentioned today, that product management hiring is somewhat very similar to product management, on our day-to-day job, because we have to remember that the saying of keep it and build it and they will come,
Yes.
that does not apply to product management, neither to hiring. Okay, it's not about just assembling a few descriptions all together and putting on LinkedIn job board or whatever it is that you want. It's not about that. It's about truly have a deep, honest look into the company culture, a real talk with your team members, understanding what are the different needs of the different parts of the team, and putting everything into message,
Yes.
or even like a dialogue with potential talent, people
Yeah.
you may spend some days at the office with, in a way that saves you time, allowing them to put their passion into action with you together and building amazing stuff. And it's never about the process itself. It's about the way you do things, about the way you craft your understanding of the team, your understanding of the culture, your understanding of what is it that you do. Really,
Yeah.
like deep, honest look at yourself, And I think that all the points that you mentioned today in our discussion were so spot on, Kimon. This is like a must watch. To all hiring managers out there, please spread the word. Click, like, share it with all your HR managers that you know. Everyone on your company should watch it right now, because this is gold. And I want to remind everyone that next week we are going to have another session where we are going to discuss this from the perspective of the candidate, and how to bring yourself out there in the most outstanding way. So, for everyone who is now watching us, please, at the closing of the session, please go to our LinkedIn page. First, hit the like button, show us some product love, follow us, and then go to the event section and make sure to register, to RSVP to next week event, because either if you're looking for a job right now or you don't, or if you are looking to hire someone for your team, this is going to give you the compelling, the 360 point of view on how to build the right teams, magnificent teams, on how to be a part of these magnificent teams in 2024. Kimon, I had the best time having you on our stage.
I had such a great time, and I was just like, this is such a pivotal time to be talking about this, just because I know so many people have been struggling with this specific issue in product management. It's been one of those roles that has such a great growth trajectory, but these are some of the things that I've been seeing a lot of people make mistakes that's making it hard for hiring managers. And then I can't wait till next week till we talk about it from the point of view from applicants, because people tell me all the time, like, I've been applying to hundreds of jobs and I can't get anywhere, but I have the experience. And so I'm so excited to talk about that and give you all tips on how to stand out and to get roles. And probably even you can even still utilize this to actually get a role before the end of the year. So can't wait for that.
Amazing. I can't wait either. We're going to have the second part of this product party of us together. We are going to give all the tips, all the tricks. You're going to give all the tips and all the tricks. And I can't wait for that. This was Kimone Napier. Thank you so much for joining us today. I can't wait to have you again on our stage next week. See you there.
Of course. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Fantastic. Bye-bye, everyone.